the screams in the forest. The forest was silent. Thick purple trees stood tall under the dark alien sky. Strange creatures moved quietly through the grass. The only sound was the soft wind, until suddenly a scream broke the stillness. It was sharp. It was painful. And it was not from an animal. A human man named Ray was walking through that same forest. He had been on this alien planet for 3 days, exploring and collecting rare plants. His small scanner beeped every now and then, but nothing had prepared him for the sound he just heard. Ray stopped in his tracks. Again, the scream came, louder, weaker, full of fear. "Help! Please, anyone!" It was a voice, a female voice. Someone was in trouble. Ray quickly dropped his bag and moved toward the sound. The forest became thicker. Vines reached down like claws. The scream came again, but this time it sounded fainter, as if the person was losing strength. Finally, Ray pushed through the last bush and froze. There, just 10 feet away, was an alien woman, trapped in a cruel metal snare. Her leg was caught in sharp wires. Blood ran down her skin and her body trembled. She had gray-blue skin, long dark hair full of leaves, and glowing eyes full of terror. She turned her head toward him and screamed again. "No! Stay away! Don't hurt me!" Ray raised both hands. Hey! I'm not here to hurt you!" But she didn't trust him. Her hands reached for a nearby rock, ready to defend herself. Ray saw that the trap wasn't just painful. It was dangerous. If she moved the wrong way, it would cut deeper. "I can help," he said calmly. "You're losing blood. That trap, it's meant to kill wild animals." She stared at him, breathing fast, her eyes wide. "Humans. You kill for fun." Ray shook his head. "Not me. I swear, I'm just a traveler. I heard you screaming." She didn't answer, but her grip on the rock loosened just a little. Ray took off his jacket slowly and showed her the first aid kit inside. Then he knelt beside the trap. Her leg was swelling. The wire had cut deep into her ankle. "This will hurt," he warned her. "But I'll be quick." She nodded, barely. Ray pulled out a small tool from his belt and carefully unlocked the trap's mechanism. It took him a full minute, but finally, snap, the metal opened. She gasped and pulled her leg back. Blood poured out fast. Ray grabbed bandages and pressed them tightly against the wound. "You need real care," he muttered. "You'll get an infection out here." "I can't go back," she whispered. "They left me. They said I was unworthy." Ray looked at her face. She was more than just injured. She was broken. He didn't know who they were, but it was clear she'd been left here to die. "My name's Ray," he said gently. "What's yours?" She blinked slowly. "Vetra." "All right, Vetra. I'm going to carry you. I have a small camp not far from here. You'll be safe there." "Okay," she hesitated. Then finally she nodded. Ray lifted her carefully into his arms. She was lighter than he expected. Her body was cold. Her eyes stayed on his face as if trying to read him. The walk back to camp was hard. The forest was full of sharp branches and moving shadows. Every sound made Vetra tense up. But Ray kept moving step by step until his small shelter came into view. He placed her on a sleeping pad and started boiling water. Vetra looked around the tiny space. Just one solar lamp, some tools, and food packs. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. Ray looked over his shoulder. "Because no one else did." For a long moment she said nothing. Outside, the forest went silent again, but inside that little camp, something had changed. Two strangers, from two very different worlds, had crossed paths, and only one thing was certain: the scream that started it all had brought the right human. Rain began to fall outside the shelter. Ray sat beside the alien woman, Vetra, watching her sleep. Her leg was wrapped in clean bandages now, and her breathing had calmed. But deep lines of fear still stayed on her face even in rest. She had been left in that cruel trap like bait. But for what? A warning? A punishment? A hunt? Ray couldn't stop thinking about it. Suddenly, Vetra's eyes opened. She gasped and tried to sit up. Her hand reached for the same rock she had held earlier, but it was gone. Instead, she found Ray sitting nearby with warm soup in a small metal bowl. "It's all right," Ray said gently. "You're safe." Vetra looked at him with tired eyes. She didn't thank him. She didn't smile. But she took the bowl. "You should have left me," she whispered. "That trap wasn't an accident. I was supposed to die there." Ray frowned. "Who would do that to you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked out through the plastic window of the tent. Then, she said something strange. "They were watching, even when I screamed. Maybe even now." Ray stood and grabbed his scanner. He moved outside and swept it across the woods. The forest looked still. But on the screen, faint energy signatures blinked. Watching eyes, hiding. In the trees, he came back in quickly. "You're right, someone's out there." Vetra nodded slowly. "They never leave the prey alone. Not until it stops breathing." Ray sat beside her again. "You're not prey, not anymore." But Vetra's voice was hollow. "They don't care. My own kind abandoned me, left me in the snare so the predators could find me. It's a ritual, a test. I failed it." She paused. "And now they want to finish it." Outside, a low growl echoed through the trees. Ray stood again, hand moving to the small blaster on his belt. "We're not staying here. I'll carry you deeper into the rocks. They won't follow through the ridge. Too dangerous, too narrow." "You'll die," Vetra said flatly. "They'll come for you, too." Ray turned to her with a strange calm in his eyes. "Let them try." She stared at him, as if seeing him fully for the first time. No fear. No hesitation. Just a steady human man who wasn't running away. He packed quickly. Blankets, food, medical kit. Then he wrapped her leg carefully and lifted her into his arms once again. She was still weak, but her arms slowly reached around his shoulders. Outside, the growling was closer now. Something large moved between the trees. Something not afraid of humans. Something that had followed Vetra's blood trail. Ray stepped into the night, holding her tightly. Rain splashed down, cold and fast. The ridge was just a mile away, but in this weather, it would feel much farther. A branch cracked behind them. Ray turned fast and saw it. A tall creature, black as smoke, with a jagged face and glowing yellow eyes. It sniffed the air, then gave a bone-deep snarl. "Run," Vetra whispered. Ray didn't answer. He ran. Through vines, thorns, mud, and falling rain, he ran with her in his arms. The creature gave chase, howling like thunder. But Ray didn't stop. He knew every route, every rock. He had studied the map. He had planned escape routes. He just never thought he'd need them for this. Up ahead, the ridge came into view. A steep climb, sharp rocks leading to a narrow path. No creature that size could fit through, but Ray had to reach it first. The beast roared behind him, closer now. Ray felt the ground shake as it leaped. He ducked low, slid under a log, then climbed up the ridge path, gripping rock with one hand and holding Vetra with the other. The creature snapped its jaws at his heels, but the path narrowed too quickly. Roared in frustration, claws scraping stone, but it couldn't follow. Ray collapsed inside the rocky gap, chest heaving, heart pounding. Vetra looked at him through damp strands of hair. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do all this? For me?" Ray leaned back, still breathing hard. "Because no one should be hunted like that. I don't care if you're alien or human." She didn't speak. She just looked at him, confused. And something else. Something softer. The rain continued to fall outside. But in that narrow shelter of stone, she didn't feel like prey anymore. She felt protected. The rain had stopped, but the chill stayed. Ray lit a small fire inside the narrow stone gap. The flame flickered against the rock walls, giving just enough light to see. Vetra sat nearby, her injured leg propped up on a flat stone, wrapped in bandages. She watched the fire, silent and still, like a statue. Ray handed her a thermal pack. "Eat," he said. She didn't take it. He sighed, placed it beside her, and sat down with his own. The silence stretched between them. Vetra finally spoke, voice low and unsure. "You don't know what I am, do you?" Ray looked at her. "You're the one I pulled from the trap. That's enough." "No," she said, shaking her head slowly. "I'm Raskari, a caste that once ruled 10 systems. Proud, cruel, my kind. Don't beg, don't scream, don't trust outsiders, especially not humans." Ray stirred the fire with a stick. "Sounds like a hard way to live." She gave a short laugh, dry and bitter. "It is. That's why I was thrown into the trap. I refused a blood duel. They called me a coward, a disgrace." Ray looked at her. "And now you're here, with me." Vetra turned her face to the wall. "I'm dead to my people, and your kind fears mine. You should have left me." Ray leaned forward, voice firm but kind. "I don't care what you were. I saw someone in pain. I helped." Vetra glanced at him. "And you think that makes you special?" "No," he replied. "It makes me human." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she watched the fire dance. Something inside her eyes flickered, confusion, maybe even guilt. Then she asked, "How many of my kind have you met before?" Ray raised an eyebrow. "You're the first." "Then you don't know what we're like." "Maybe not, but I know what you are like." That made her go quiet again. He stood up and walked to the narrow opening of the cave. He checked the scanner. No life forms nearby. For now, they were safe. "I'll keep watch," Ray said. "You rest." But before he could sit down near the entrance, Vetra spoke again, this time softer. "My father led battles that wiped out human outposts. My cousin keeps slaves. I was raised to see your kind as weak, dirty, less." Ray didn't move. He just listened. She continued, her voice trembling. "But you carried me. You risked your life. You didn't ask for anything. Why?" Ray slowly turned. "Because I'm not your father, or your cousin. I'm not here to fight the past. I'm just trying to do what's right." Vetra looked down at her hands. She didn't know what to say. Everything she had believed about humans, about herself, was cracking like thin glass. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in her life she whispered, "I'm sorry." Ray didn't say anything. He simply sat down near the fire again, quiet and calm. And then slowly, Vetra reached for the thermal pack and began to eat. The next morning, they heard movement again. Soft, calculated, not wild. Ray crouched low at the cave entrance and used his scope to see. A small patrol, Raskari warriors, not the beast from before. These ones wore armor and moved with purpose. Vetra saw them too. Her face turned pale. "They came to finish it," she said. "My trial is not over." Ray clenched his fists. "We won't let them find you." "You don't understand," she whispered. "If they see you helping me, they'll kill you too." Ray looked her straight in the eyes. "Then let's make sure they never see us." Hours passed. The patrol moved slowly through the forest, scanning footprints and scent trails. But Ray was careful. He left false signs, fake tracks, and even used old camo nets to hide the cave. Vetra helped, even with her injured leg. She showed him how her people tracked prey, how to fool their sensors. For the first time, they worked together. And when they were done, they sat again by the fire, exhausted but alive. "You surprised me," Ray said, smiling. Vetra looked away, but a small smirk played on her lips. "You surprised me first." For a few moments, the fear faded. She no longer saw him as a human, and he no longer saw her as an alien. They were just two people who survived together. And something was slowly growing in that cave. Trust. The rain stopped, but the clouds still hung heavy like a warning. Ray and Vetra had moved for hours, quietly, slowly, and always off the main path. Vetra leaned on a wooden crutch Ray made for her. Her legs still hurt, but she refused to let him carry her anymore. "I need to stand," she told him. "I've hidden too long." Ray respected that. Now, just as night began to fall, they reached it, a small, broken-down cabin deep in the forest. "Place belonged to an old hunter," Ray said, brushing dust from the door. "He vanished last year, left everything behind. It's not on any maps. No one will find us here." Vetra nodded. Her eyes scanned the area, always alert, always watching. The trees around them grew thick and wide. The perfect place to disappear. Ray opened the door with a creak. Inside, the air was cold and full of old smells. Wood smoke, dried meat, and something else. "Careful," Ray said. "Could be traps inside." They stepped in slowly. Dust floated through the light from a cracked solar lantern. Animal bones lay on one side of the room. Shelves were filled with tools and gear, but it was empty. No one had been here for months. Ray helped Vetra sit near the hearth. Then he gathered firewood and got a fire going. As warmth filled the space, Vetra leaned back and closed her eyes for a moment. "Strange," she whispered. "What is?" "I feel safe." Ray smiled softly. "Good. You deserve to." But Vetra didn't smile back. "No," she said. "I don't." Later that night, Ray found something hidden behind a loose board in the wall, an old datapad. He powered it on using a small portable cell. Lines of text appeared. A log. Entry 94. Still no word from base. Traps are empty. But something watches from the trees. Not a beast. Smarter. Closer. Entry 95. Saw a girl in the snare. Not sure what she is. Beautiful. Wrong. I didn't help. I should have helped. Ray frowned. He read more. Dozens of entries, all from the hunter. Many of them ended the same way. I should have helped. He glanced at Vetra. She was resting, her head against the wall, breathing slow. Ray whispered, "But I did." The next morning, Vetra woke to the smell of stew. Ray had found dried beans, herbs, and a few clean root vegetables. It wasn't fancy, but it was hot. Vetra took a bite. "Strange taste," she said. Ray chuckled. "Human food." She kept eating. "Why do you keep doing this?" she asked him suddenly. He looked up. "Doing what?" "Protecting me, feeding me, carrying me. I'm not your responsibility." Ray shrugged. "Maybe not. But when I found you in that trap, I made a choice." She stared at him. "To do what's right?" she asked. He nodded. "Kind sees mercy as weakness," she said. "But I see now. It takes strength to care." She stood slowly, using her crutch. "I want to help now," she added. "Show me how to survive like you." Ray smiled. "All right then. Let's start with setting up some real defenses." They worked together for hours. Vetra learned how to build a tripwire alarm, how to stack wood that burned slow but hot, how to track movement without leaving tracks. And Ray, he learned too. He learned the names of her stars, the songs of her people, the pain she carried. At night they sat near the fire, no longer strangers. But just as the silence felt peaceful, the scanner beeped. Ray checked it, and his face went hard. "What is it?" Vetra asked, standing at once. "They found us." Outside the cabin, dark shadows moved between the trees. Raskari soldiers, and they weren't alone. The beast from before, the hunter's snare predator, was with them, but it wasn't chasing them. It was following orders. Vetra's voice broke. "They've trained it." Ray stared through the window. "How long until they reach the cabin?" she asked. Ray loaded his blaster. "Not long." Vetra took a deep breath and stood tall. "Then we don't wait." Ray blinked. "What?" Her voice was calm. "I'm done hiding." It began with a single crack, a dry twig breaking under a boot. Ray froze. Vetra turned her head toward the door, eyes sharp and glowing in the firelight. Her posture had changed, no longer a weak, hunted girl. Now she stood like someone who had tasted death and refused it. "They're here," she whispered. Ray checked the blaster at his side, fully charged. He stepped toward the front window and pulled back the curtain just enough to see the outline of figures in armor, 3 of them, moving between trees. Behind them, something much larger shifted in the dark. A low rumble vibrated through the ground. The beast. "Do they know we're inside?" he asked. "They know," Vetra said. "They want fear to settle in before they strike." Ray backed away from the window. "Then they picked the wrong house. They acted fast." Ray moved the table against the door. Vetra limped to the back window and started placing makeshift glass shards across the floor, painful traps if anyone broke in. Then they stood together, breath shallow, heartbeats loud. Outside, more movement, heavy footsteps, slow, confident. The door rattled. Ray raised his blaster, then silence. No footsteps, no growling, nothing. Vetra spoke low. "They're waiting for fear." Ray replied, "Let's give them fire instead." With practiced hands, Ray lit oil-soaked cloth and threw it out the window toward the tree line. Whoosh! A bright flame lit up the forest edge, revealing armored figures hiding behind brush, and the beast with yellow eyes standing tall beside them. The light exposed their faces, cold, ruthless, unmoved. But what they didn't expect was Vetra stepping into the firelight. Covered in a cloak, face marked with red clay, she stood tall, leaning on her crutch like a warrior rising from ash. "I see you," she shouted. Her voice echoed through the woods. The Raskari soldiers froze. Even the beast paused, sniffing the air. "You left me to die," she continued, "but I didn't die. A human saved me." Her eyes narrowed. "You called me weak, but I'm standing, and I'm not alone." Ray stepped beside her. He said nothing, but the blaster in his hand spoke for him. A deep voice called from the trees. "Return, Vetra, we will forgive. End this shame." Vetra raised her head high. "Your forgiveness is a lie. Your shame is fear. Fear that a human showed more honor than any of you." There was silence. Then, growl. The beast was unleashed. Ray didn't wait. He threw a stun flare toward the charging creature. It burst with bright blue light, blinding the beast just long enough for Vetra to move. Ray fired, once, twice, hitting the creature's side, but it kept coming, howling in rage. "Freaks! Inside!" Ray shouted. They ran into the cabin. The walls shook as the beast slammed against them. Then came the soldiers, blades drawn, weapons humming. Ray kicked over a barrel of burning oil near the door. A wall of fire roared to life. One soldier screamed as flames caught his armor. Another tried climbing through the back window, but met Vetra's crutch to the face. She wasn't strong, but she was fierce. Ray grabbed her wrist. "Time to go." "Where?" "The roof." They climbed through a hole in the ceiling. The rain had left it slick, but Ray managed to pull her up. Below them, the cabin burned. The beast thrashed, trapped inside the fire ring. One of the soldiers screamed something in Raskari tongue and ran for the forest. The others followed. In less than 3 minutes, it was over. Smoke rose into the air. Fire crackled. The enemy had fled. Ray and Vetra sat on the roof, coughing, laughing, trembling. "We made it," Ray said, wiping soot from his face. Vetra didn't smile. Her voice was low. "This was only the first group. Others will come." Ray turned to her. "Then we keep moving." "Where?" He paused, then looked at her seriously. "Where they can't follow. Where your name doesn't mean disgrace. Where we build something new." Vetra looked at him. This time she smiled. Smoke still hung in the air like a ghost. Ray and Vetra had moved far from the burned-down cabin. For 2 days they had traveled across rough lands, through old, dried rivers, broken mining fields, and empty hills where even birds refused to sing. Now they rested near a cracked rock wall under a dead tree. The stars above blinked like quiet watchers. Ray stared at his scanner. No signs of the Raskari, he said. But Vetra looked unsure. They don't give up, she said softly. They'll send more, and next time, it won't just be hunters. It will be elders. Ray looked up. Let them come. No, Vetra said. They don't come to catch. They come to erase, burn the ground, silence the story. She paused. They'll kill you just for being near me. Ray's hands tightened. Then came the silence between them, heavy, full of weight. She looked at him again. You still have a choice. You can leave right now. Go back to your ship. Go back to your world. Ray looked at her, bruised, limping, but proud. Firelight from a nearby lantern danced across her face. You're right, he said. I do have a choice. He stood up and took a slow breath. Then, without looking away, he dropped his locator beacon, the only thing that could call his ship back. It shattered on the stone. Vetra's eyes widened. What did you do? Ray smiled. I chose you. She didn't speak. For a moment her mind spun. Why? Why would he do that? Why would a man give up safety, home, future, for her? I don't understand, she whispered. Ray sat beside her again. I've been to many planets, met many kinds, but I've never seen courage like yours. I'm broken. You're standing. I'm hunted. So am I now. You could have had everything. He leaned in slightly. I found something better. Vetra looked away. Her eyes burned, not from smoke, but from something else. No one had ever stood beside her like this, not even her own blood. And now, a human, someone raised under alien stars, was burning every path behind him to walk beside her. But peace did not last long. That night the wind changed. Vetra woke first. Her ears twitched. Something was wrong. She crawled to the edge of the rock wall and looked down into the valley. Her heart dropped. 10 red lights moved in the dark. Hovercrafts, silent, smooth, fast. They're here, she whispered. Ray woke quickly. How many? Vetra's voice was calm but tight. Too many. Ray checked his gear, just one blaster left. Not enough power, no grenades, no traps. He looked around, only the high rock behind them. He pointed. We go up. She hesitated. That leads to the cliff. Exactly. They moved fast. Ray helped her climb. The rocks were sharp, but adrenaline pushed them forward. Behind them, red lights grew brighter. Shadows moved with speed. They weren't hunters now. They were executioners. At the top of the cliff, they reached a small plateau. Wind howled. Below them, a deep drop. Endless black. Ray turned. No way forward. Only one way down. They'll reach us in minutes, Vetra said. Ray looked at her. I know. She took a deep breath. I won't let them kill you. She grabbed a sharp rock and moved toward the cliff's edge. What are you doing? Ray asked, shocked. If they see you still helping me, they'll never stop hunting you. But if I die here, you'll be free. Ray stepped forward. No, I didn't come this far to watch you die. You said you chose me. I did. Then let me save you. Ray's voice rose. No, not this way. She stared at him. Storm in her eyes, but tears at the edge. Ray walked forward, grabbed her wrist, and pulled her back. We jump together or we fight together, but I won't let you choose alone anymore. Vetra's lips parted, but no sound came. The roar of engines neared. Then, she nodded, and for the first time they faced death side by side, not as alien and human, but as something greater. The sky cracked with the sound of hovercrafts overhead. Red lights circled the cliff like hungry eyes. Voices in the alien tongue echoed across the plateau, sharp, commanding, heartless. 10 soldiers, full armor, energy weapons. They had come to end the trial and erase her shame. Ray stood with Vetra at the cliff's edge. Behind them, nothing but air and a deadly fall. In front of them, death in metal and fire. We can't win, Vetra whispered. Ray's grip on her hand tightened. Then we make sure they remember us. But just before the first shot was fired, something strange happened. Vetra stepped forward slowly, lifting both hands, not in surrender, but in command. Her voice rang out across the cliffside. Enough! The soldiers paused. One of them removed his helmet. A scarred face, eyes sharp with hate. You broke the right, Vetra. You let the prey become your shield. You stand beside filth. She didn't flinch. No, I stand beside the one who pulled me from your trap. Who gave me water, who gave me warmth. He shames you. No, she said louder. He saved me. Ray looked at her, his heart full, but he didn't speak. He let her stand tall. Vetra walked closer to the enemy line. Her limp was gone, replaced with strength. You call him weak, she shouted, but he faced your beast, fought your fire, and never turned away. She stopped just feet from the front soldier. I call him my savior. The moment held still. Even the wind paused. Then behind them something unexpected happened. A deep old hum vibrated beneath the cliff. Ray looked back and saw the ancient glyphs on the rock glowing blue. Symbols, long hidden, revealed by blood, fire, and unity. The cliff wasn't just rock, it was a temple, a forgotten place of power from a time before the Raskari's rules. Suddenly, a wave of energy pulsed from the stone, pushing outward. The Raskari soldiers stumbled back, shields flickering. Their weapons shorted out for just a second, but it was enough. Ray rushed to Vetra, grabbed her hand, and pulled her back. Now! He shouted. They ran, not off the cliff, but along the narrow ledge behind the temple wall, just revealed by the pulsing light. Shots followed. Rocks exploded, but the path held. Down below, they reached a hidden cave, the old heart of the mountain. Inside was silence. Glowing walls, symbols of peace, of unity between species. A forgotten dream. Vetra stood in awe. Raskari once believed in this, she whispered. Before we chose fear. Before we built traps. Ray looked at her. Then maybe we're the first step back. Hours later, the sun rose. The soldiers had given up the chase, believing the two had fallen to their deaths. But Ray and Vetra sat in a quiet valley below, watching light touch the world again. Vetra leaned against him, weak but smiling. You changed everything, she said. He shook his head. No, you did. She chuckled. We both did. There was a long pause. Then her voice turned soft. When I was caught in that trap, I thought the last thing I'd see would be my own blood, my failure. But instead, I saw you. Ray met her eyes. And I saw someone worth saving. She touched his hand gently. You didn't just save me from death. You saved me from who I was becoming. He stayed silent. Then she added, almost in a whisper, wherever you go now, I go too. He smiled. Good, because I'm not going back. From the fire in the forest, from the cliff and the chase, 2 lives had become one path. Not because they were the same, but because they chose each other when no one else did. She had been caught in a trap. He had been caught in a choice. And both had escaped, not alone, but together.